Hello, I'm Harold Offeh, I'm an artist, and today I'm going to show you how to make art using everyday materials and your body. As an artist, I work with performance, so I use my body to make performances through actions, gestures, posing, and making different shapes. And I usually document these with photography and video. So, we're going to do it together. You're going to use your body in response to a particular space or room that you're in. Now, if you've never done this before, don't worry. We'll go through it step by step. And really, there is no right or wrong. Really, it's about just exploring and experimenting. And I guarantee you're going to come up with some really interesting results. So, for this first performance, you're going to need your body, a camera, or a phone with a camera. For the second performance, you're going to need your body and white paper or black paper, masking tape or sellotape, some spices with a bright colour would be really good, flour, cocoa butter or Vaseline. Do check with an adult or a grown-up before using the spices, just to make sure that it's okay. I think it's a good idea if we just loosen up a bit and stretch out, just to get ready and warmed up. So firstly, maybe if we just shake out, using your wrists, your arms, just kind of shake them out a bit, wiggle them, and then you can do the lower half. You can even jump around a little bit, swing your hips. And then maybe we could do some stretches as well. So very simple, just arms out. And then maybe to the side, put your hands up, bending over a little bit. And then the other way. And then maybe just stretching up on your tiptoes like that. Great. So, in this performance, we're going to be using our bodies to create shapes that respond to the environment that we're in. So, you might be in the classroom at school or at home. It might be the living room or a bedroom that you're responding to. And I thought before we actually started, we could look at some artists who we might take inspiration from. So the first artist we're going to look at, I've got some images on the wall. This is the Austrian artist, Valley Export, and her work is called Body Configurations. So configurations is basically another way of saying, a way of arranging yourself, or maybe a way of creating a shape. And as you can see, she's using her body to respond to these two walls, and she's using her body to kind of mirror or copy the corner. In the second image, she's responding to the curve of the pavement. So she's lying down and she's mirroring that curve. And I think what's really interesting about both images is that with the photographs, she's then drawn on the photographs. So you can see in the top one, she's used a black marker to make this triangle. And then in the second one, she's used a red marker to kind of draw the curve on the pavement. So that might be something that you want to do with your photographs. You might want to print them out and you can use a marker to draw on top of them to emphasize your shapes. Another artist that I was looking at who's also been influenced by Valley Export is the artist Carey Young. And this is Carey Young's work. It's called Body Techniques. And in this work, she's taken inspiration from Valley Export, but maybe there are some crucial differences that you might notice. For example, it's in a very different location. And also you might think about what she's wearing. Again, Carey's using her body, positioning herself in relation to the landscape. And then there's another image, again by Carey Young, and this time she's responding to kind of this step And she's sort of positioned her body to kind of mirror the corner of this step. So you have a couple of examples there, and that might help us to think about the sorts of shapes and what's possible with your body. So maybe before we start, have a good look around. So have a look around the classroom, or if you're at home, have a look around your living room and think about maybe walls or corners, or it could be tables or a chair that you might start to respond to. Okay, so I'm going to start, and I think I might start over here with this table. I really like this corner, so maybe I'll do something where I'll put myself in the corner, and I could start maybe, if I go on the floor, and actually what's really nice here is that the legs are almost the length of my legs. So, see, and I'll just grab on like that. Okay. I've used this because it's sort of the length of my body. So you might want to use a smaller table or a bigger table. I'm going to try another one with this table. This time, maybe just using my arms. So if I kneel down here, and then I'm going to put my arms here, so I'm in the corner. That can be another one using the corner. And then, I mean, I'm not big enough, but another one you could use is here. Like, if your body's a bit smaller than mine, you could sit in this space in an L shape and make that corner. I think I'm going to do a small one, and I might use my finger and thumb, which kind of makes a corner. And if I put it here, so again, you don't have to use all of your body. You can just use bits of your body, your limbs, arms, legs. So here, I'm making the corner just with this forefinger and thumb. Okay, so starting with that, have a look around and think about some of the other spaces that you might use. I might use this sofa next. It's quite a big sofa. Maybe, I quite like the fact that it's sort of, there's a corner here and then it comes down here again. So I'm going to try and see if I can make that shape with my body. So I'm going to get on and put my legs over. Right. Okay. I'm sort of trying to get my bum in so it's making a corner. And I'm putting my knees there. And then, okay. Some of you might find this more easier. I'm not as flexible, but I'm going to try and put my arms down like this. Ooh. Everything's upside down. After a while, you might start to get dizzy. And up. But again, you know, you'll have different bodies, so you might want to do slightly different things. Like, even here, I could, in this position, what you could do maybe is to ask an adult to take a photograph of you in this pose. What you could do is print that photo out, and then, a bit like the Artist Valley export, you could draw shapes over the shapes that you're making with your body. So if it's a square or a circle or a rectangle, you could use a marker pen or a pencil to make those shapes on the photograph. Maybe I'll have a go with this chair. And something you can also do as well is, if you've got someone taking photographs, you might want to look at the photograph, and maybe after you've seen the photograph, you can try again, because maybe you'll see something in the photograph that you want to adjust, like move a leg or an arm. Okay, this, I think, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to try something just a bit simple. Okay. Okay, and I'm gonna have a good look at this chair. Gonna get under it like this. I'm just gonna maybe try putting my arms through these, and then this is a bit like hugging the chair. So I'll do this position. Maybe think about big objects or small objects, because you'll respond to them differently depending on the scale or size of them. I might try another one with this chair. Maybe just, it's a bit, just gonna lie flat like this. Have a think about how it feels to be in these particular shapes or positions. Sometimes you might want to be stretching, or sometimes you might want to be a little bit more loose or floppy, and you can kind of just play with that a little bit. But think about how it feels and try different things each time. Okay, I might. I'm going to have a go at using these bean bags now, because they could be quite good. Slipping a little bit. So it might not always work, but have a go. So I've just tried a few things, but you can do all sorts of things. I mean, you might want to think about other spaces, like a doorway where you could fill the space of the empty doorway, or you could think about the artist Carey Young and use the bottom steps of the stairs and try and make that shape. Everybody's body is different, and you might think about the sorts of things that your body will do. The thing about this performance is that there is no right or wrong, and it's just simply about experimenting and trying different things and finding out potentially how your body might fit into these different spaces. So do have a go. So for the next performance, we are going to need to wear some different clothes. Think about some things maybe that you don't mind making a mess in, some old clothes. So we're going to need to change. So now we're ready for the next performance. And for this performance, we're going to use our bodies again. And this time, we're going to be doing a performance called body prints, where we'll use our bodies to make prints. Now, you might have done this before, perhaps maybe in school or at home, where maybe you've used your hand and you've put paint on your hand or your finger, and then you've put that on some paper and made a print. Well, it's the same sort of principle, but this time we're going to be using different body parts and we'll be using slightly different materials. So this work, Body Prints, is actually based on an artist's work. And on the wall, I've got some examples of work by the African-American artist, David Hammons. So in these images, what David Hammons has done is that he's actually used greasy materials like Vaseline or body butter, put that on his body, and then he's put his body onto a piece of paper, like you put your hand, and then he's left these marks on the paper. And then what he does is that he adds a colour, a powdered colour, like powdered paint, onto where the greasy mark is on the paper. And then when he shakes the loose powder away, powdered paint sticks to the greasy marks, and then you get this print. And what he's done, I think, is really interesting, is that he's used different parts of his body, like his arm. You can see in the top one, he's actually used his head and his hair, and you can see bits of clothes. In the lower one, he's used his face, again, different bits of arms. So he's kind of making a body, but using different parts of the body to create the print. So we are going to have a go, and we're going to try this technique. So, first of all, you need to gather your materials. I've just decided to start with these materials. So I've got my flour, black paper, some masking tape, and some Vaseline. What I think I'll start by doing is because I've got some fairly small bits of paper, I'm going to tape them together just to make a bigger piece of paper. So I'm going to lay them out like this. Okay, so once you've taped it together, you can turn it over. But before we start, what will be really good is if you can cover the surface that you're going to be printing on. So this might be the floor, or you might be using a table, but whatever you're using, maybe put some newspaper down. Just make sure that you've got a surface that you can kind of work on where you can get messy. So we've got our big sheet of black paper, and now we're going to do the print. You'll need to think about which part of your body that you might want to use. I'm wearing a t-shirt and shorts just to kind of expose bits of my legs and my arms, which I think I'm going to use for this print. But have a think about what areas you might want to use, and you might need to change again. For this, I might use my arm and my elbow and maybe bits of my hand. What you'll need to do first of all, once you've chosen, is get your Vaseline. But so this could be cocoa butter or some other kind of like greasy material. Do ask permission if you're going to use something from an adult. What I'll do is just get a bit of the Vaseline, and you need to just apply it. You don't need a lot, but you'll just need to apply it onto the part of the body that you're going to make the print from. So I'm going to do my elbow. It's quite good to use bits where you have like texture. My elbows, there's quite a lot of skin texture there, and that will make a really good print. And just rub it in a little bit. You don't want it too thick. So I think I might also use the back of my hand as well. So I'm just going to put some Vaseline on there, on fingers. And again, you don't need too much. And then I've got some excess, so I'm going to just put it on here. And because I've used this hand, I might also use this hand, because it's covered in Vaseline, I might also use that to make a print. Okay, so once you're covered, and your elbow and the bits of the body that you're going to use, what you need to think about is how you want to position your body onto the piece of paper. So you could do lots of things. You could use the whole part of your body. I think I might start initially just with my elbow. So I'm just going to put it on the paper and press and lift, you can see. And I've made like a little greasy mark. So that's kind of like a little dot. Maybe I'll do a few more. A few greasy marks there. Maybe this time I think I might use this part here. Think about maybe how hard you want to press. I'm just going to press very lightly this time. So I haven't used all of the elbow, it's just a little bit there. And what you get to decide here is like how you use the paper. So you could do patterns, you could start to put bits on top of each other. So have a bit of a play and a think, what should I do now? I think I'm going to try the whole back of a hand. And I'm just going to press down a little bit. Okay, oh, yeah, that's quite a big, I didn't get all the fingers there, so it's only like 3 fingers. Maybe I'll try this time. Again, you can move yourself around the paper. I'm going to try a whole bit of elbow and hand. Okay, this is a much bigger mark there. And I've also got this hand, so I'm gonna put that there. Okay, that's got fingertips. Maybe I'll try here, just more fingertips. And as you get adventurous, you might start creating like patterns. So if I put my other fingers here, maybe that's like a little sort of circle that I've created there. And you know, you can keep applying Vaseline as well. I quite like using my knuckles because there's some interesting skin patterns on there that I think I might quite like to see. So I'm kind of making this weird sort of claw and then just going to put that on there. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. I think I might try and do it a bit more lightly this time. Okay. Spread apart. I'm going to try using the side of my hand this time. So it's a little bit on here. Okay, and then I think I'm going to do an X. So, okay. So after you've got a range of marks that you're happy with, what we're going to need to do next is use the flour. And we're going to apply the flour to the different greasy marks. And this will allow us to see our print emerging. And you can use a spoon, which might be easier, or you can just shake. I'm just going to put a little bit of flour onto where the greasy marks are. You don't need a lot. Just sprinkle it on. And like that, just keep. So just make sure you get a little bit on. Okay. So what we're going to do now is, with the paper, we're just going to move the paper around just so we get the flour covering all the different parts of the greasy marks. And as you can see, you can begin to see a bit more clearly the marks that you made. Okay, oops. So I'm just going to put the excess here on the side, and then we put the paper down. What you should be able to see are the different marks. I think they look a little bit like X-rays, so they're kind of black and white, and you can see some of the detail from the palm prints. Here where I made this kind of sort of finger pattern, if you get really close up, you can see some of the patterns from the skin. You know, you can try this as many times and really think about the design and arrangement. If you remember with David Hammons, the artist who made the body prints, he was kind of making up a body, so using different parts of his arms and his face and doing a composition that looked like a body on the sheet of paper. This is maybe a little bit more like abstract, where I've just put lots of things around. So that's one way, using black paper with flour, that you can try. Maybe we'll try another way now with some of the other materials. So this time I have a white sheet of paper, quite a large sheet of paper, and then I'm going to use some cocoa butter, which is like a kind of body cream that you can get, but again you can use other things like Vaseline. And this time I'm going to use a spice. This spice is called turmeric. It has this really amazing kind of like orange colour, but you could use cinnamon, you can use other spices. Maybe have a think about the sort of colour that you might want to use. Okay, this time for body parts, I'm going to perhaps use my legs, I think. and think about my knees. I might maybe use some fingers still. You could use your feet. You might even want to try using a bit of your face. But again, have a think, and it's about experimenting and trying different things out. So, first of all, you'll need, this is cocoa butter. I think I'm gonna put it definitely on my knees, on this one knee. And again, you don't need a lot. It goes quite a long way. I'm gonna put some on my shin and my calf. It's under here. Okay, so I've got quite a bit on there now, so I'm gonna, again, this is the sort of fun bit where you think about what part of the body that you might use on the paper. So I think I might try and make an L and use this corner, in this corner here. And I'm gonna put my knee on the paper and just press a little bit and lift. And you can see, you can't see that well on here because it's white paper, but there's a little bit of a greasy mark that I've left there. Okay. Now I'm gonna use the knee and I'm gonna just put my knee here and lift. And again, it's left a mark there. That's quite nice. I'm going to try using a whole bit of the leg now, so just might put a little bit more on here. And I'm going to move my paper and put my leg down and press and lift. And again, got a few marks there. They're quite interesting actually. They're like streaks. And the thing about the white paper is you might not see clearly what you've got, but when we add the spices, things will start to reveal. So just bear with me. Maybe kind of might use hand again. So got a little bit too much on there, but I'm gonna fingers again, maybe a bit like that. Put a bit more on. I'm gonna try and press a bit more this time. And this is a bit of sort of trial and error. So the more that you do it, the more you'll kind of get used to how hard to press or which bits are more interesting for you than others. I think I might do like a gesture like that maybe. So I could use that side. Yeah, maybe I'll use that side. I'll just put some cocoa butter on it and then I'll do that. Just pressing down a little bit. And then maybe I'll do the other side as well. So just try and find some empty spaces. So try here. See what that looks like. Okay, that's quite interesting. And then just because I've got quite a lot of butter on here, I'm going to try and do here. Just like that. Okay, so that's quite a few things. So now I've got the turmeric, and again, I'm just going to sprinkle it on lightly. You don't need a lot, so just put it onto wherever the greasy marks are. And there we go. Sometimes you have to guess and try and find, it's really light marks here actually. Okay. And then what you'll do with the paper is just move the powder and shake it so that it covers wherever you've got the greasy marks. Just going to go over to this side a little bit. And then back again. And then you just tip the excess off, because you'll probably have more than you'll need. And then what you'll see is your prints are revealed, and you'll see where the marks are. So here again, we've got the hands. This was the knee, just using the knee. This bit was like the side. That was a bit of thigh. And again, you can play about a little bit with the kind of composition. And after you've done one, you'll probably get a better sense of which parts of the body that you like a bit more. And you'll be able to try out different positions. So for example, you might want to get a bit more adventurous in your body positions. Like, you know, you could do 2 elbows, so you're kind of sort of arched. Or perhaps if you're sitting a bit like this, and you could put a leg in or a foot. You could do lots of different kind of combinations. It's quite an exciting process because you have to wait until you add the spices or the flour for a lot of the images to be revealed, and that can be really exciting. So when you've finished, you can perhaps ask an adult or a grown-up to take a photograph of your prints, and you could perhaps share it on social media with the hashtag #TateKids, or you could upload it to the Tate Kids gallery. So have a go, experiment, really think about how you can use your body to create art. You don't necessarily need a lot of materials. You can make something that's interesting. And I'm really excited to see your artworks.